Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Well, hello. How are you? Live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show, and we are ready to dive into. I don't know if we're ready for Monday. I don't know. Oh man, it just, the weekend was gone like that, and I was still working on stuff late yesterday afternoon, and I just don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for, but I guess we don't have much of a choice, do we? We're just going to have to deal with it. Deal with it, Dukes. Get with the program. On top of that, we're still tentative on our hour 2 guest. For some reason, I don't know why. I just don't know why. For some reason, I was thinking that Nick Begich was scheduled for today. Turns out I had accidentally scheduled him for Labor Day, which we were off the air, and so and I didn't realize it till early this morning. Oof. So we're going to. I just got the notification. So no Nick Begich today. Sorry, I'm looking at my thing, and then no. We'll have to see. Apparently, that means Nick Begich will be on next week on Monday. Unless, let me ask him the question. Let me ask him if he wants to come in at hour 1, just in case. We'll plan on next week. If that's not the case here. We'll see what he has to say here after I shoot this new text whoa. It's the new text message. We'll just see what he says there. We'll see how it goes. But it's Monday, and that's okay. And quite honestly, it was interesting that there's not a lot of hasn't been a lot of things happening. There is a couple of things, and one of them, again, we talked a little bit about last week, and quite honestly, I find absolutely hysterical. And that is the arguments about whether or not Eric Hafner can remain on the ballot for the U.S. congressional race. And we'll have some thoughts. We'll have some thoughts on that. And read what some of the latest is. There's actually going to be a court case up today in front of the Alaska, I guess it's a Superior Court. And then we'll see where it goes from there, because we have the potential. Then there's one more stop on we'll see what happens. Okay, so no Nick Begich today. We'll we'll see what he has to say next week. But yeah, watching this whole lawsuit thing fold down is just hysterical. To see the kind of the panic induced by the fact that Peltola now has to face another candidate, which of course has been the whole point, right? This is what we've been saying about ranked choice voting for, well, since the very beginning of ranked choice voting. We've been saying this, that facing off against people in your own party does nothing good for you. So we're gonna talk about that. There is a new documentary out by Jeff Landfield and Scott Jensen. Landfield, of course, is the purveyor of the landmine over there. But there's a new documentary out that where he talks about the vagrant and the homelessness problem in Fairbanks. In Anchorage. I apologize, Fairbanks. I didn't mean to insult you. It's up on YouTube, and Suzanne Downing has got a piece on it that we'll chat about here in just a second. What else we got? Oh, bomb threats and death threats to the governor. From I don't know how people continue to think that they can. I don't know how in this day and age, this connected day and age, I don't see how they can continue to think that they can get away with some of the things that they're trying to get away with. And then what else? I guess that's it. I mean, there's not quite honestly, there was not a whole lot that has kind of happened over the last. It's kind of that lull, that quiet time before the storm. And so in that, we have decided to go ahead and also open up the phone lines this morning for you to talk about maybe there's something out there that I missed that you guys are like, oh, he's got to talk about this. Of course, all the local races are starting to heat up. And there's lots of things going on. I had got somebody reached out to me from the Fairbanks City Council, wanted to be on the air. And I offered them to come on. Haven't heard back from them yet either. But lots of local races heating up as well. And I know I just saw some of the races, and there's a candidate forum down in Homer and some other things going on. Anyway, phone lines to open. And if you want to call and shout to the rooftops today on whatever your favorite topic du jour is, 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864, and you can join us and again just chit chat with. It's one of my favorite parts of the show is just hanging out with you guys and seeing what you seeing what your thoughts are on a variety of topics. Okay, so what do we got? We talked about the documentary. We talked about that. We get this. Where do we want to start this morning? Well, I guess we'll start on that new documentary. Of all the things, we've got about 5-6 minutes here, and this should be interesting. You know, we saw a documentary on on KOMO, KOMO, the Seattle television station down there. They did a documentary in was it 2018? I want to say when that documentary come out, and it was called "Seattle is Dying," and it was 2019. Seattle is dying, and it was a kind of a. It was kind of it wasn't a downer necessarily. There were some ideas on how to fix it, but as you looked at it, you were like, oh man. And I have not watched Landfield's documentary yet, but it looks like it has the hallmarks of kind of the same thing, where they're like, how do we possibly fix this? The new documentary by Landfield and Scott Jensen of The Landmine shows the underbelly of Anchorage in all its wasted glory, says Suzanne Downing. He takes viewers through the encampments around Alaska's largest city on foot and by drone, going into places where many citizens would not feel safe treading. It's the third documentary on the topic that he's done in 5 years, and in those years, the problem has only gotten worse. I didn't realize that. I'll have to go back and see if there's like a whole series of videos that he's done that we can get a little bit better of a little bit better feel. The hobo encampments have spread from the green belts and the parks to encampments on streets and sidewalks. Since his latest documentary, released in late August, Landfill says he has been contacted by Anchorage business owners who say they're dealing with vagrants' vandalism at their business, with everything from broken windows to abandoned items. But the big message from the permanent campers featured in the video is that they want to live that way. They don't want to live in shelters. These people who can't easily be housed because they're dealing with serious mental illness, drug or alcohol addiction, or a strong need to be outside of society in general. There's about 22,000 views on YouTube, more on Facebook and Twitter, according to Landfield. As the course, it's fall time now, and the temperatures are going to drop, and Anchorage will again open up mass shelters and use taxpayer money to pay for hotel rooms for those who can't camp all winter in the outdoors. They don't offer any solutions for the problems that plague Anchorage, but they, of course, now the recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling gives local communities more authority to deal with the problem of vagrancy if they have the will to do so. It is uncertain now whether or not the current political situation in Anchorage, with the with the blue assembly and the mayorship and everything else, it's unsure as to whether or not they do have the political will to deal with this. And having seen some of this stuff in up close and personal, I was driving around last week and I drove through an area where there were, tents just bellied up right next to the road. Some of the business owners are definitely very concerned about this. And, it just reminds you, you could see, if you've seen the videos of the streets of places like Seattle or Los Angeles, where the vagrants are literally living right on the edge of the roads, right next to businesses. And you can imagine that it's creating some serious issues down there. And I don't have the answer to this. To me, this has been a fascinating topic, simply because it's been so prevalent in so many areas across the country, and yet nobody seems to have a true understanding of how to fix it. I mean, Los Angeles has poured, hundreds of millions of dollars into the problem, and yet it's still as rampant as ever. There was a piece on Reason Magazine about a year ago that took a look at the situation from 3 different perspectives, 3 different communities, and how successful they were. They had 3 different angles, methods of trying to deal with the homelessness. And the one in Texas, in Austin, seemed to have the best response. And they were saying, maybe we should address, standardize the response to this, and that would help. One of the biggest things that, which was shocking to me, was the fact that all three of the different responses pointed to the fact that the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development was a big contributor to this, based on their guidelines and regulations and how the money was flowing, how the money to deal with this problem was flowing, and what it could be spent on. Maybe we should, first of all, I want to watch this documentary and get back to you on it with a report on, what it covered and what it says. But maybe we should get the folks from Reason Magazine on to discuss this, because I think this is going to be an increasing problem. Now, not so much a problem in down in the Kenai, or really even up in Fairbanks. I mean, let's face it, it's a lot harder to be homeless in Fairbanks than it is in Anchorage. That's not to say that there's not vagrancy and homelessness in Fairbanks, but it is a lot harder to be homeless in Fairbanks, where it's 35 or 40 below, than it is in Anchorage, where the coldest temperatures are much warmer than that. But it is a problem that we're seeing pretty much everywhere. It's not like this is a unique situation. So maybe we'll see if we can find the folks from Reason who did that, and we can bring them on to talk about what the solution might be, because we can gripe and complain about stuff all day long, but if we don't have at least some kind of solution, and at this point I don't. I mean, I know that a big component of this is mental health. There's a component in many of these folks that has to do with some form of addiction or other things, but I don't know what the total answer is. The problem is you have to want to be helped, and that's one of the things that Downing just said, is that these are people that don't want to be in shelters. They want to live the way that they want to live, which is fine if you're out in the wilderness. Not good if you're encroaching on everybody else. Anyway, we're going to talk about this more. We'll take your phone calls on the other side. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Hello. How are you guys this morning? Man, this was a rough ride this morning. This Monday morning was rough. Oh, man. Woof. I got to say, my phone slipped off the charger, and I woke up and I was like, why do I feel like I should be up right now? And I looked over at my phone and it was black, and I grabbed my watch and realized, oh God, this is like, I was already late. And then trying to get everything set up, and then realizing and look at my calendar that Nick was supposed to be on last weekend, which was Labor Day. And so I was like, well, that Anyway, it's been a fun morning. Let's just put it that way. It's been a fun morning. We're ready to go. Let's see. Miguel says meet and greet fundraiser for all local candidates. For all local candidates at the Fairbanks North Star Borough. Is that a week? Is that Friday? At the Saturday, Hotel North Pole, 4:30 to 6:30. If you're in the area, come speak with your local candidates. Brian says he got pulled this week. Oh, man, he has pulled the ultimate troll move. He said he ranked Eric Hafner ahead of Nancy's girl, Mary Peltola. So it's probably just give more gasoline to the fire. More gasoline to the fire, for sure. Oh, Brian says he's watched the video. You watched the video. Give us, Brian, if you want to call in and give us your thoughts on this. I'm interested to see I'm interested to see what's going on. But I thought the Democrats liked rank voting. Yes, I know, Kevin. It's ironic when the shoe fits, when the shoe's on the other foot. Bill's like, we need to start talking about the holiday recipe contest. I know, really, seriously. I'm scrolling down here. Maybe they are being ungovernable, talking about the homeless, said Brian. Yeah. Tim Anders says, the problem with these videos is the mayor wanted no part of the documentary, no solutions, and no focus on the actual problem. Typical landfill type of work, and the dude looked like a jerk doing it. I mean, it would really be nice if you could come up with at least some kind of solution. My answer to most questions, especially ones that I don't understand most, that I don't understand all of the problem, which is, I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there where I don't understand the majority of the problem, right? I know there's a problem, but I don't know all the particulars. My answer to that, especially where I don't really am not super familiar with it, is find a place that has dealt with the same problem and start with their template and see if you can make their template work into into what that is dealing. The homelessness industrial complex is part of the problem. I would agree with that, and that's part of what the thing folks at Reason were saying was that there is an issue with like with HUD, with the Housing and Urban Development, and the way that they put the funds out, and the way that it's a follow the money kind of thing. It's an interesting thing. Seeing broken down motorhomes, cars, tents, and camps around Wasilla as well, says Terry. People's Homes. I don't know what the People's Homes comment is, but yeah, no, I mean it's a problem. All right. 4:30 for me. Okay. All right. Okay. Yep. You overslept. It says, I overslept and you still started the show without me. Yes, I almost overslept. Didn't, but I mean, but I still had to start the show. That's how it works. All right. Well, feel free to call in with your thoughts on that and more. Let's go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this thing. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
All right. We're continuing on this morning. A little bit of open line, open forum. Phone lines are open right now at 319-527-3864. And we've been talking about the homelessness and this new documentary from Jeff Landfield over at the Alaska Landmine, which I haven't watched yet, but I definitely want to. This is the first I was hearing about it this morning. And we'll see what, again, part of the problem is, I don't have a true answer for this issue, which, I mean, I'm sure surprises some of you because, I think I have the answer for everything. No, I don't. There are certain things that I can't wrap my brain around or haven't had enough time to, dive down into all the details. I understand that it's an issue. We could see that it's a problem, but we could see that it's been a problem across the country. And so, like I was just saying a second ago, if I understand that there's a problem, but I don't have all the details, or maybe I don't even have a starting point as to where I would suggest that you deal with it. Although I know that, a key component of the problem in dealing with the folks who are homeless is that they're, generally speaking, is usually either a mental health issue, some kind of addiction issue, or both. Is a key component to a lot of the folks that are out there, because as she said, the big message from the permanent campers featured in this video is that they want to live that way. And that's part of the problem is everything that's being offered usually by local governments is trying to help people out of homelessness. But if that's how they want you have to want help, right? You have to want to be, if you're happy where you're at, then it doesn't matter how much money or people or programs that they throw at it. That doesn't, that's not going to help anything. That's not going to stop anything. And so, like I said before, if you want to know how to fix something like this, you have to look at somebody who has already addressed it and had success and start there. Don't try and build your own program from zero and do it. And there's also a component of industry in this as well, because there's lots of money in homelessness. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars being spent in California on homelessness, and lots of industries and organizations, and there's money to be had there. And so it's in some ways become kind of an industry, which is another problem as well. Brian is on the line. Brian actually said that he got a chance to watch this video already, which is interesting because, like I said, I had just heard about it this morning, but maybe he can give us some more insight into it. Brian joins us from the Fish Hook out there in Wasilla. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Oh, doing good. Working with the fish, see if caffeine. We're working on remedying that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So I won't.
It's a caffeine Monday for sure. Go ahead.
It's Monday, man.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what you
Snuck
saw.
up on me. Well, I thought it was a fairly good. I mean, it was well produced. I thought it was fairly balanced. It was, I kind of thought it was funny that Jeff Lansfield, who I guess I don't know if I've ever seen him in totality. I he kind of didn't look like I expected, but he's wandering around down there in shorts and flip flops talking to these people. I think there was a few times that he was actually uncomfortable in the situation, and I think you've hit it. I think there's a lot of people who are homeless by choice. There's one guy who I'm like this rugged individualist native guy, and I live off the land forever. There's some people that they are seriously messed up. Some of them obviously stoned to the gill. Some of them just hard luck. So I don't think there is any single common causation in the whole problem. But I'd recommend watching it. I think like I said, it was well produced. I think Jeff Lansfield did a really good job on it. Some of his biases come through, but I think that it was pretty objective overall.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. And according to the article, that they really didn't offer any solution. Is it kind of more of a just this is what it's like? Were there any suggestions on how to fix it? I mean, especially, like I said, it's hard when people are not really looking for help, right? They're just, we're here. Yeah. I'm loud. I'm proud. I love it here. Why are you here? I don't need you, kind of thing. Right. But I mean, is there, when you look at that and you see that and you see what's going on around the country, what are your thoughts on potential ways to try and address this?
I think that there's got to have to be a multi-pronged approach. I mean, there's some people that clearly just need a little love and attention. I think there's a lot of them that are estranged from their families. Maybe they have, I don't know, obnoxious personality disorders. They're estranged from their family, or their families could be totally dysfunctional. And some of them do have families, but the families don't want them. And a lot of times they blame the family. They don't look at themselves. So, like I say, I don't know what you do about the folks that want to live that way, other than open up a large swath of land over somewhere over Point McKenzie, or they could build a Lexus access road and move them over there and they can live off the land if they want. But I think a lot of them are kind of delusional. They think that they're like the one guy, rugged individuals, but on the other side of it, he's willing to avail himself of whatever benefits he can, from the margins of civilization. So I don't know. Like I say, there's not an easy solution to it.
And that's the irony of that. That's the irony of it, being a rugged individualist in the middle of the largest metropolitan city in Alaska and saying, I'm going to live off the land. I mean, but you're right in the middle of the downtown core. I mean, there's some dichotomies there.
Oh yeah. I find it kind of amusing. You're probably familiar with the expression, I'm going to the Charlie. A lot of sort of the criminal element went up into the Yukon Charlie Wilderness area, hide from the law. This has been a number of years ago, but that was kind of.
No, I mean, and I think that there probably is a component of that in there as well. And again, it just makes it tough when people are positive about their experience and want to stay there. And, the thing is, and you mentioned in the chat room, you mentioned the homelessness industrial complex. And I mean, there are there are millions of dollars to be made in that as an industry. I mean, we saw that in California where they
for sure.
hundreds of millions of dollars. I think the city of Los Angeles, I think, has spent upwards of $1 billion trying to deal with their homelessness. And yet it's worse than ever. And yet major companies and nonprofits and everything else have come out of this taking on, hundreds of millions of dollars to try and deal with this. And the problem still remains. And so I don't think that that's the solution. Do you?
No, I don't. I think that there is a component a few years ago. Some of the Native Corps, I guess they sort of pulled together and kind of created this entity with vans that went around and checked on chronic inebriates and the homeless and tried to get them into shelters. I don't know what happened, but I look at this too. Like I said, it's a multi-pronged approach. I don't think that necessarily have agency to go talk with a Native person. I don't know where this person's coming from. I don't know, their background or anything, or culturally. But that's got to be an outreach. I mean, the Native community, the Native Corps, they need to get out and work the problem. The drug people, the drug counselors, and they need to get out and work part of the problem. And I mean, like I said, there's not one solution. I think it's going to have to take considered effort to solve the problem, not to want to actually solve the problem and not just create another homeless industrial complex and not make it. Well, yeah, we can do that, but we need a lot of money. I mean, there has to be the human element. We have to, as human beings, want to solve it for another human or help another human being, as opposed to, hey, I just saw a job opportunity.
Right. I agree with you that I think there is no Twitter solution to this. No 148 character one size fits all solution. It is definitely something that has to be taken from multiple aspects. And again, no easy fixes. Like I said, the best outcome or the best description I've seen in it is that Reason article where they talk about the 3 different cities, one of them including, it was Los Angeles, Austin, and another one in Texas. But I mean, again, we just need to look at where it has done some work, where it has worked to some extent or is improving, and we need to build off of those things for sure. And I would love to see it. All right, Brian. Well, thank you so much for your review, my friend, and for the information. I appreciate you coming on board and sharing with us today. Thank you. And get more caffeine.
Stay caffeinated and ungovernable.
That's right, my friend. Thank you so much. All right, Carlene is over in Kodiak joining us this morning. Carlene, what's on your mind this morning?
My best friend travels back and forth on the ferry several times a month with her truck. And there have been ladies with lots of little children moving to Kodiak because they heard on Facebook that it's cheap to live here. So I don't know where these families are, if they're at the shelter. But there was a good article in the Kodiak Daily Mirror about the homeless children in Anchorage. And, it seemed like a large percentage of kids are homeless, and they're going to school and they're trying to deal with it at the schools. And then a lot of children are being taken in by family friends. And it just seems like, I read in a book recently that like 40% of boys age 18 to 35 live with their parents. 36% of girls between 18 to 35 live with their parents. But this book is like 7 years old. And so I've learned since then that about 78% of the kids lived with their parents between the age of 18 and 35. So homelessness sounds like it's becoming a big problem. And it just seems like the kids are suffering.
Yeah, no, the homelessness is a big problem. And I think what you're talking about as well with the where the kids are staying home longer, we used to call that failure to launch. And I don't think that that's necessarily always the case in many of those instances. I mean, it used to be not unusual to have a multi-generational home where the parents and then the kids live there. Sometimes the grandparents But because of the way things have gone in the economy and the costs of, buying a home and doing all that, we only really started with this idea of the American dream and everybody moves out and gets their own place right away. That's really only been part of our, of maybe the last 60 years or so, 70 years. And it seems to be making a swing back in the other direction. I have a couple kids at home that live with me still. They're working, they're doing things, but they're, unable to necessarily go out and, spend half their income just to get an apartment. Instead, my wife and I said, well, you could stay here and save some of that money and put money away and do some of those things. And I think that is what a lot of these places are doing. Yes, there's still some kids who do nothing but play Xbox all day in their 20s and living with mom and dad. But I think that that is probably even separate from the homelessness issue. And I think we're going to see more multi-generational homes. As you said, that number seems to have increased. I don't know if it's reached 70%, but I know there's a big chunk of them out there who are taking longer and longer to leave home because of the cost of doing so. And maybe it doesn't make sense. I mean, if a kid's only making a couple $1,000 a month and yet the rent to find a small apartment is $1,000 a month plus expenses, does it really make sense if you can live with mom and dad and contribute there? I mean, I think that's a valid question. And I think that's a shift that we're seeing in the makeup of the country and how people are living overall.
There's even more problems with the children. I heard on a radio show that 49.35% of the children are in therapy. And there's been other things like that too that are affecting the children.
Yeah. No.
And even my friend, her kids are in their late 40s and they've moved into her apartment.
Oof.
So we've got some real problems here.
Oof. Yeah, no, that definitely got some issues there for sure. All right. Thank you so much thanks for coming on board, Carlene, and sharing your thoughts this morning. I appreciate it. We are up against the break. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Phone lines are open, 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off. I mean, I'd like to talk about this kids staying in their parents' home for longer. I think that's the new norm. We'll talk more about this on the other side. The Michael Duke Show.
What is that?
Common sense.
Regularly heard on American radio.
Michael Duke Show.
Radio.
Okay. No, I mean, it didn't make any sense. I was talking, we had a powwow with the kids and they were dealing with some stuff. And one of my daughters actually had moved out of the house and then came back because, she was living with 4 other people to be able to afford a place to live and living full time. And there were some problems there and everything else. And I said, well, if you come back and, she's working full time, doing all that. I said, if, save some money up, do that. And then you can, when you're ready to go, you can go out and do that before. I've had other kids leave and, but it's interesting. I guess this is one of the reasons why, if you look back at the old family house, they were big houses, I mean, they were 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. They were 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. And that was mainly because you had, lots of people living there, it wasn't just mom and dad all by themselves. And, it's interesting to see how this is working. And how many parents, I mean, I don't know how many of you out there are, still have kids at home. I know that probably the majority of the listenership of this show is already got kids that are, their kids are grown and gone. But if you've got kids who are just transitioning out of their teen years, how many of you still have kids living with you? Or would it be easier for them to live for you? Brian says, I'm so obnoxious. My kids were forced to leave. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens. Chris says, boomers broke the economy. Gen Z and alphas are having the hardest time getting established. I mean, I don't know if boomers broke the economy. I mean, I don't know if you can blame it strictly on the baby boomers. It's, I think that there definitely is some problems with what's going on. I don't know necessarily what the solution is, but I think that somehow you're going to see more of this. You're going to see more of this. I don't want to call it failure to launch because that sounds negative. There certainly are some kids where there's failure to launch, where they can't, they're, still playing Xbox, at, middle of the day when they should be out getting a job kind of thing. But there are plenty of instances where they're working, they're doing all this, but it would be nearly impossible for them to make it on their own, or it would consume, over half their income just to be for the pride and privilege of saying I have a place of my own. All right. Absent the military, said Fat Ray on YouTube, I have no idea how children from households in the bottom 85% can afford to move out at 18. I mean, yeah, that's the case. I mean, after I graduated from high school, I climbed on an airplane and flew to Kodiak and worked and walked the docks, worked at a fish processing plant for a short period of time and walked the docks till I got a job on a boat. I camped out for a while. I couch surfed with some friends from some folks from a local church. I ended up staying at a local, like a parsonage. They rented you a room for a while there where you could get a room. You could share a room for cheap rent. I did all kinds of things when I was younger and then moved out and I never moved home. Right. After that. But that was just, again, that was 45 years ago, 40 years ago. I guess 40 years ago. Try and make myself older than I am. 40 years ago. So that was just a different thing. It's just a different world today. Amy said, I never left. I did work I'm assuming that meant part-time. I did work part-time and help my folks. Now they have both passed away. I live in the house. It's been my childhood house. I like Alaska. Yeah. I mean, I think that's, I think that happens. And I think that's the way things used to be, is that you grew up and usually the house was big enough that even if you got married, then you and your spouse had a little part of the house that you lived in. And, it was a generational home. My brother-in-law is a squatter on family property. He has brought all his drug friends to stay with him for free. He wants the family to pay for everything and also keep the lands clean. He and his friends wants to do nothing. It will probably take about 6 months to get him and his friends off the land. I mean, that is one of the components of that out there. There are some like that, and then there are some like Amy who, were still working part-time, contributing and doing all that kind of stuff. All right. I'm just looking through all the comments here. Okay. All right. All right. We're jumping back into it. Let's get to it. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Again, phone lines are open. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing. Here we go.
The Michael Dukes Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Huh. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
So, interesting conversations in the chat room this morning. And I think that there is some truth to this. One of our viewers on Rumble, Snare Wolf, says, young people do not know how to start out at the bottom and work their way up. They want the new car and the house in their 20s, all on their McDonald's wages. And I would agree that that is a component of this issue. I mean, we've kind of moved on from the homelessness issue to this. I mean, I guess we'll broadly call it failure to launch. The failure to launch issue, which is where, you know, we've got multiple generations living in a house now where we've got young adults who are over the age of 18 still living in their parents' home. You've got some components where they just are freeloading. They're not going out there and spreading their wings. You got some that are doing work, some that are working, contributing to the household, still doing that thing, which is kind of where I'm at. I've got a couple kids that are still who are over the age of 18 who are working and contributing and doing that, but it didn't make sense for them to go out and try and make it on their own because of the exorbitant cost of doing so. And then there are shades in between, right? One of our listeners said he's got a brother-in-law that lives on family property that's squatting there, and he's just a druggie, and he does, you know. So you've got the extremes on both sides. But you know, I think Snare Wolves is kind of nailed part of it here. Is that, you know, the generation that's in their late teens, early 20s now. Are all the generation that grew up with, you know, the internet and social media, and they see this fake world where everybody posts all the beautiful stuff and how they've all got this stuff, and they want the new car and the house in their 20s. Never realize. I mean, I didn't buy a brand new car until, well, I mean, I guess my first brand new car I bought when I was 53. That was the first brand new, 0 miles, nobody broke the leather except for me, and I was 53. That was the first brand new car I ever bought. You know, up until then, I had been buying used cars, and some of them low miles, some of them not so low miles, and we just did what we needed to do. But you're right. Today, it's like a lot of these people, they want the latest and greatest. They want it just like they see it on the internet. And it's that instant gratification that I think is stymieing a lot of kids. And maybe they've forgotten, or maybe they've missed the point to where we start at the bottom and we work our way up. Because that's not what they're seeing, right? They're seeing the instant gratification of the 17-year-old on YouTube who makes $1 million a year making stupid videos, and they want to be just like that. But that's not reality. Not reality. Everybody wants affordable housing right up until it comes to your community, says Brian. That's true. I mean, again, why is the government, why is the government involved in so many of those things? For sure. Let's see. Harold says, my first job wasn't McDonald's. It was at Prospect Creek at 50 below, keeping equipment running. Right. I mean, I totally agree. My first job was doing some construction stuff as a youth and helping build and move stuff and do that. I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, I went out commercial fishing when I was very young. I did a lot of different things to see what I like to do. But it's, again, the world has changed, and whether it's a mindset, whether it's the economics of it, there's got to be a balance. I think that we are going back towards a more multi-generational home set. And again, but there are definitely shades of differences between one side of the spectrum and the other. Some people who have kids that are definitely working and trying to do their best, saving money for college or saving money for a down payment on a house or a new car or something. And then you got the other ones who are freeloading. And there are, again, shades of difference between them. I don't know what the answer is to. I don't even know if it needs to be fixed in that regard. That's a thing. A big part of it, it says Brian, is parents not instilling those values of hard work and you got to grind it from the bottom to the top. I could agree with that. We all, and Greg says, this is kind of my mindset. Greg says, my grandparents went through the Great Depression. They always told the family that if times got hard, we could move in with them. Of course, we had to work and contribute to the household. Yes, because that's how we do it. We've got to, everybody's got to work. Everybody's got to contribute. Back in the day, we'll, I don't know how we got from homelessness to this, but it is an interesting topic. And I wish I had, answers for folks out there who are struggling with some of this. Cause I know that there are parents, who are struggling with kids that, won't get up and get out of the house. And like Brian said, that's when their lives get real uncomfortable. I had one friend that had a kid that just refused to do anything, and things got real uncomfortable in that house. Like, I mean, there was no internet in that room. You didn't get the Wi-Fi password. You didn't get your phone. You didn't get a phone unless you paid for it. And in fact, at one point, you don't get a door on your bedroom, right? I mean, they went to some extremes to get things moving in that household. We just take the door off your bedroom. And you don't get, we put a padlock on the fridge. You got to ask permission to eat our food because you're not doing anything. I mean, and that may seem like extreme. And I'm scratching my head as to, how that works. But yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Everybody's got to pull through to make it happen. Everybody's got to eat. And yeah, you can go to Ron here says, go to a trade school, learn a trade, make $75,000 to $100,000 per year, forget college. Make a good living without the huge college debt. Take pride in the fact that you're self-sufficient. The problem is that self-sufficiency is not a pride point for a big chunk of kids out there. It seems like that's not for you and me. That's a point of pride. I'm self-sufficient. I can do it my own damn self, right? But that's not how they see that. In some of the kids today, that's not a point of pride to be self-sufficient. Why? Well, partially because they've been told time and time and time again that government is the solution to every problem. And so they want to go out there and do that. They want to be taken care of from cradle to grave because they believe that's the correct answer. All right, I got one line on hold. We're going to continue with the Monday edition. Phone lines are open. We'll continue with open line, open forum into hour 2. We'll see if this caller is going to hold on with us through the top of the hour. We'll be back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Don't go anywhere. Fat Ray says, some of y'all are ignoring reality and not recognizing that we're regressing. I mean, I guess you could say it's a regression to a previous time. But, I mean, regressing has kind of a negative connotation to it. Yeah, with some of the kids, I would agree that that's the kind of regression you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, I think things are cyclic and we do go in cycles, and that definitely could be, maybe we're cycling back to the multi-generational home as well. All right, let's go over to the phone lines here and see who's on hold and see if they're going to hold on with us through the news. We'll go over here. Good morning, caller. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Steve-O from the Bush. How you doing?
Good, Steve-O. Can you hold on the line, my friend? And we'll take you right after we come back from the break.
Yeah, I'll definitely try. I'm on my way to a concrete job.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to put you on hold, and we'll be right back to you here in just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere. Steve-O out there in the bush sharing with us here. But I mean, Ron's right. There is opportunity when he was talking about going to take a trade school, learn a trade. There is an opportunity out there for kids. I mean, look, there's jobs everywhere, right? Everybody's hiring. Where was I going by the other day? Then I looked up and saw it. It was, I was like one of the fast food joints, $16 an hour. $16 an hour. Okay. I mean, it's not great, but as a starting wage at an entry level job, that's not bad. You know? Frank said, or do nothing and let everybody else pay the bills. Yeah, I mean, and part of this is a learned behavior from the parents. If the parents allow it, then they got no room to gripe and complain when it's, you know, when you're out there doing it. You got no room to complain if you're allowing it. If you're not allowing it, then, you know, you need to, I mean, if you're not allowing it, then the kids will go out there and do their thing. Sorry. Henry just said he's going to get banned. It's the last time y'all be hearing from me threatening to be banned from the show anyway. Alaska, abortion, LGBTQ, we're being invaded, been hit with a biological weapon of mass destruction, many dying. I can't read the rest of it because it's all clipped off. But good morning, Henry. Why is the first thing folks do for problems is point fingers? Geez, get off your butt, says Harold. Well, because that's human nature. It's always easy to point and say, it's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault, right? It's society's fault. It's the baby boomers' fault that they got it all and left nothing for us, which I've never understood that argument of, I mean, we've still got a tremendous amount of opportunity here, right? Still a tremendous amount of opportunity. I've never understood the let's point fingers. And I never looked at the previous generation and said, you guys took it all and left nothing for us. But again, I guess, you know, Gen Xers were that way, you know, rub some dirt on it and walk it off. What are you going to do? Cindy says it still starts with the home life, in my opinion, and how parents instill hard work and values. Yeah, no, I agree. And I just don't know. Cindy, I know you've got a passel of kids and folks and everything. I mean, are you forcing the birds from the nest right out of the gate? If it doesn't make sense for them to go get started on their own, are you encouraging them to stay at home and contribute to the family there, pay a little rent? I mean, you know, I don't think $200 a month is too much to ask for food and rent for some kids. I mean, hell, when my son moved out, my grocery bill dropped by $300 a month, let alone everything else. And then his first comment to me after like 60 days was, man, food is so expensive. Yes, it is, my son. Yes, it is. I agree. Food is expensive. And now you see why. Now you see why I was always griping about something. He has no idea. Then, of course, he comes over on a Saturday or Sunday. The first thing he does is goes to the fridge and opens it up and grabs a mouthful of something, you know, leftovers or whatever. It's like, oh, food is so expensive. It is. Chris says, I'm glad I worked 20 years to pay off my house and still working to save for my retirement. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's lots of us out here who are, I mean, I'm, what am I, 10 years from retirement age now? I mean, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to be working until they fit the box around me, apparently, because that's just how we are. That's how it is. Proud to say, said Greg, that all my kids have spread their wings, all have purchased homes and started their own families. They all work hard. Yeah, that's good to see, man. That is good to see. 100%. Yeah. Fat Ray said he does feel for the boomers because they had a tough act to follow. The greatest generation. Yeah. Yeah, they did have a tough act to follow. There was you want to talk about the Depression era folks and the war era folks, that's some hard stuff. That is definitely some hard stuff. All right. We're coming into it. Let's get to it. Steve-O's on the line. We're going to start off with him. Back with more of the Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
Sounds just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to everything, including the podcast, and, of course, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station, and or FM translator. Good morning and welcome to the program. It is hour 2 of this Monday edition of the show. We're doing some open line, open forum stuff, and Steve-O is out somewhere in the bush doing some work today. He wanted to sound off on what we've been talking about, which is homelessness and kids' failure to launch and everything else. Steve-O, what's on your mind?
Hey, Michael. So to those parents that are having those kids that aren't leaving,
right?
I would have to say they're enabling their kids to hang out. You know, where parents have become a friend and not a parent.
Yeah, no, I think that there's definitely there was a trend there. I think there was a trend there for a while to where parents were like, "Oh, I want my child to be my best friend." No, you're a parent. You need to parent. Sometimes that means you need to lay the hard truths on them. Sometimes you need to, be a little strident or lay the smack down on them, so to speak, not, verbally and philosophically. You need to say, You got to go out and do it. I think there are kids and families that are that have kids that are staying at home that, are by choice, that aren't just laying around. But you're right. If they are just kind of laying around and not doing their thing, then the parents are enablers and it needs to stop. Otherwise, they'll be that way their whole lives.
Exactly. Michael, I came from having to travel for work hard. I was a commercial fisherman for 15 years. And my two boys saw me work and sweat and struggle to give them just a mediocre life. And I have been blessed with 2 worker boys that they get up early, they pound the pavement if they don't have something going on. And I just couldn't be any more proud. I'm actually working for a 20-year-old boy right now who's starting his own business. I'm 57 years old. This kid is on fire because he was brought up right. And it's just a good thing to see that there are some out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic because, again, that shows that although we're talking about a lot of this, nester failure to launch problem, the bottom line is there are kids out there that were raised right and they're out there moving and shaking. I mean, my son, he wanted to get out. He got a good job. He's super excited and he's a super hard worker. And I'm blessed that, all my kids have that good work ethic. And again, if you choose to keep your kids at home to help them, and have them contribute and have them save money and do that is one thing. If you're just enabling them to smoke pot and play on the Xbox all day, that's a different story, right? I mean, there's 2 sides to that coin.
Right. Exactly. Hey, Michael, I'll let you go. I just love what you got always going on, and you're a blessing, and God bless you and your family, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you calling in and sounding off this morning. I appreciate you, and thank you so much for being part of it. He's right. I mean, that if the kid is just out there, doing nothing, then you're not helping. You are enabling, and you're not here. I'm not here to be my children's friends. I'm here to be their parent, their mentor, the example that they need in life. My kids saw me, as Steve-O was saying, they saw me struggle. They saw me, we were 7 people with me alone providing an income, mom staying at home, the kids being homeschooled, and they saw how hard dad works, and they saw that, and hopefully, and through discussion and talk and the example that was set, hopefully they all continue to use that same work ethic themselves. The parent is first. You and Melody just said, yes, parent is first, friend maybe later in life. Yeah. No, I agree. Maybe later in life, after they've established themselves as adults and they're working, then you can be friendly. Then you can be the friend to your child that they always need. But you can't be their friend when you're trying to help them develop. That's just not how things work in this day and age. And over on Rumble, Eisner Wolves, he made an interesting comment. He said, even the government has got involved with children moving back home with tax and health benefit. And that's true too. That's an interesting component that I hadn't really considered, that there are, there are benefits now to kids living back at home and doing it. I mean, it's interesting that the government has gotten involved in that as well. So we'll see where that goes. Anyway, if you want to call in, feel free to do so. 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. And we could start, we could talk about this or anything else. A couple other stories that I wanted to get to this morning and take a look at. Some of them, I mean, this is like stupid human tricks, right? This is the idiot of the day kind of things. A Seward man who sent threatening messages to the office of Governor Dunleavy, including threats to bomb and shoot the governor, was charged last Wednesday by a federal grand jury. The DOJ said that 22-year-old Matthew Edward Stanley of Seward was charged in an indictment with 1 count each of issuing a threat involving explosives, false information and hoaxes, and aggravated identity theft. He was also charged in a felony complaint by the 3rd Judicial Court in Seward with second-degree terroristic threatening, as well as a misdemeanor complaint for second-degree criminal impersonation. According to KTUU, he allegedly sent a message via the state's website, the governor feedback form, in early of April 2024, but did so under a false name. He said in the message, please raise the pay rate for me and my son, or else everyone at ILWU and my son will take a stand here at Seward. I will blanking bomb and shoot you with my son. Okay. The name he used is allegedly the name of someone he knows in Seward who he had some kind of personal beef with. The charging documents say that he had previously been fired from a job that they both shared, and that they basically have been enemies since high school. Or, I mean, okay. He hid his identity online by using a VPN to send the threatening messages, but they were able to unravel all that and track it back to him using online tools. And if convicted, he could face up to 10 years for each felony count, as well as a minimum of 2 years for the aggravated identity theft. So this guy's not going to have to worry about getting his enemy getting that job, because he's going to be in the house of many doors for for a lot of for years at this case. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, at least I guess he was smart enough to use a VPN, but to think that that's foolproof, unless you're some kind of, these people are watching, CSI Miami or something, and they're like, oh, now I know how to do that. I'll just use a VPN, and we'll just do that. I mean, what are you? I guess here's my thing. Was he just trying to get his enemy in trouble? Was that the whole deal? He just wants to get his enemy in trouble, and so he does that, or was he? What was he trying to accomplish there? I have no idea. Maybe he didn't. Now, well, he's going to have to pay the price one way or the other on that, though. That'll be interesting to see the mindset of some of the people here on this as well. All right, what other stories we got going on here? Arguments are going on today for that for the U.S. House race, for the congressional race. A state judge, a Superior Court judge, Ian Wheels, is supposed to start hearing oral arguments in just a couple hours. After a whirlwind series of written arguments by attorneys representing the state and the Alaska Democratic Party had all put in there. At the core of the issue, the Democratic Party is arguing that Eric Hafner, who's running as a Democrat, who was convicted of threatening public officials, isn't eligible as a candidate under state law and the U.S. Constitution. The party requested an injunction that would require the Division of Elections to either run the U.S. House election with 3 candidates or promote the seventh place finisher, who is the Republican Gerald Hikas. The getting that injunction is going to, according to the Alaska Beacon, James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon, getting that injunction is going to require the some real finagling. It'll require that the party's attorney prove that they're likely to succeed on the merits of the case, and that allowing Hafner to advance will cause greater harm than if he's replaced. This whole thing came about, of course, after Republicans, including Nancy Dahlstrom and not Slaughter, I've forgotten the other candidate's name, who was also a Republican, both dropped out of the race, meaning that the third and fourth place candidates dropped out of the race, and the fifth and sixth place candidates then moved up, which kind of threw the Democrats into a bit of a panic. After the Republican Nick Begich became the lone candidate in the race, Republican candidate in the race, the Cook Political Report, which is a forecaster, a big election forecaster, labeled the race as a toss-up between he and Peltola. And that's when the Democrats got into a real tailspin, which is an interesting component, because I thought they were all about the ranked choice voting. I thought they were all about letting people choose the best candidate for them and multiples of, the rank them how they wanted. I thought it was interesting. Having a second Democrat in the race, according to Brooks, could cost Peltola some votes against Begich, which might be decisive in a close race. And the results of the race may be significant for the control of the U.S. House of Representatives as a whole. This whole thing goes in. It's so funny. Some of the language that they use. We talked about this a little bit last week, that they acted like this was some big chicanery, that the Republican Party was trying to dupe or usurp the electorate by having these candidates drop out and everything else. But all of a sudden now they've filed this lawsuit, and we've got to do it. One of their arguments here is that in addition to the constitutional issue as to whether or not he can be a candidate, which I think they're going to have a hard time with, the party's attorneys argued that the plain language of the state law allows the Division of Election to promote only the fifth place finisher in cases when a candidate withdraws from the top four. So if somebody withdraws from the top four, then the fifth place candidate moves up. But what they're arguing essentially is then the new sixth place candidate can't move into the, if two of them drop, the sixth place candidate can't move up. But doesn't, when the fourth place candidate or fifth place candidate becomes the fourth place candidate, doesn't the sixth place candidate then become the fifth place candidate? I mean, I think that it just feels like they're really grasping at straws. But really what got me was the comment from the Democratic Party's attorney on this whole thing. Remember, these are the people that are telling us that ranked choice voting is the best thing since sliced white bread. Mr. Hafner's presence on the ballot would complicate plaintiffs' efforts to reelect Congresswoman Peltola because it will confuse voters by presenting them with a candidate, punitively a Democrat, who plaintiffs do not support and who would not be entitled to serve if elected. Well, I thought it wasn't about what the parties wanted. I mean, yes, it would complicate Peltola's chances to win. Just like if Dahlstrom and Begich were both in the race, it would complicate Begich's chances to win, or Dahlstrom's chance to win. I mean, this is what they are literally arguing this. If I was running the anti-ranked choice voting campaign, I would be quoting daily out of the Democratic Party's things on this, how they're all supportive of ranked choice voting, but this will complicate the efforts to reelect Peltola, and it will confuse voters by presenting them with a candidate, another Democrat, who the party doesn't support. Well, wait, I thought that was the whole point, is that ranked choice is about eliminating the power of parties. Isn't that how it was supposed to be? Right? I mean, isn't that the plan? Now, we'll see where this goes, whether or not he's eliminated or not. But it's interesting to watch the machinations behind the scenes, that they are so panicky about this. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio. Phone lines are open, 319-527-3864. Back with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Dukes Show.
Okay. Ron says, this is going back to, kids getting started and trying to buy their own home. Ron says, in a moment of truth, and we've talked about this here on the program, you'll never own your home. Never. You will always rent it from the government at whatever amount they decide to charge. That's right. You pay off that 20-year mortgage on your home, it don't matter. You still got to pay Uncle Sugar every year. Every year you got to pay Uncle Sugar. Otherwise, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. They'll come with boots and jackbooted things, and they'll put you in a cage because you didn't do it, and evict you from your property and sell it to somebody else who will pay the lucre, the ransom to the king. That's what it's all about. Brian says, Ron Gillum, you'll own nothing and be happy. Yeah. Melody, as I was saying earlier, she said, yes, parent first, friend maybe later in life. I had to kick out my 19-year-old granddaughter who I raised because she thought she could live with us for free till she was 32. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the mindset. Well, you're supposed to take care of me. Well, you're also supposed to take care of yourself. That's how it works. And Henry says, raised right, the government schools are raising kids, destroying them. Yes, that's what I was saying. I mean, they've been through an indoctrination system in the school where all they've seen is that government is the solution to every problem. My son makes a good paycheck, says Leela, at a mine, so he's in town 50% of the time. He lives in a tiny home in my backyard and pays rent by choice and is a big help around the house on his weeks home. I get people who call that failure to launch, but he's also building a huge savings account. He doesn't know what he'll do with that yet, but if he paid rent on a place that he's only using 2 weeks out of 4, he'd be broke like 90% of his age cohort. Yeah, I don't think it's failure. If your kid is living at home and still going out and has a full-time job and is contributing, buying groceries, paying rent, helping around the house, that's not the same thing as the kid who's smoking dope and playing on his Xbox in his underwear at 2:00 on a Wednesday afternoon, right? Those are two totally different things. They may call it failure to launch, but that's not. And Layla, I think that's a brilliant idea. That's exactly what I had told my daughter. Is like, you could go out and she was, again, she had already been living out. She'd moved out of the house and was living with three coworkers. So there was 4 of them in this house, and they were splitting the costs, and it was fine, except it was a big chunk of her paycheck because she wasn't making a lot of money, and there were other problems and everything else. And I said, well, just come home and live at home, pay your rent here, and contribute around the house and do what you need to do, save up some money, and then when you're ready, you can move on out. Right? But you got to contribute. You can't just, they're not just sitting around. I think that's a perfect example, Layla. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. Snare Wolves on Rumble. Thank you for working hard and paying your taxes on time so our government programs we are on will continue and we can continue to do nothing productive every day. Brian said we need a whiteboard to explain that one. I know exactly what he was talking about. That was when I was saying that the 3rd and 4th position candidates dropped out, so the 5th position candidate moved up. So did the 6th position candidate, who now became the 5th position candidate. I mean, yeah, that's why you need a freaking slide rule and everything else to explain ranked choice voting. It's crazy. All right. I think I'm all caught up here. You could own your own home if you're on a piece of federal patented land, which is still available in Alaska. Yeah. I mean, there are some patented lands out there, although I don't know if that means that you wouldn't have to pay borough if it was inside of a borough that you couldn't pay that. I'm not sure on that. I'd have to look at the legality of that, but I know that you're immune from some of the other stuff the state has, and you own the mineral rights on that piece of land if it's federally patented land. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Public enema number 1. Oh, wait, sorry. Enemy. Public enemy number 1, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Yeah, that's me. It's all bad. So Ron in the chat room just said, so Begich and Dahlstrom and Peltola is good, but Begich and Peltola and 2 other Democrats is bad. Gee, I wonder. I mean, that's basically the argument that the Democratic Party is making in front of this judge this morning, is that it was fine when there was, and it's fine if Gerald Hikas moves up from the bottom of the pack, 7th or 8th position. It's fine if Hikas is moved up into the top 4, but not if they've got a Democrat up there, because that makes it tougher because he's I mean, who was it? They're saying the quiet part out loud, said Layla. Yes, they're saying the quiet part out loud. Is that, well, it's fine when it's Republicans, that's working as intended, but when it's Democrats, multiple Democrats in the race, that's a problem. And I just want to shake my head and laugh at that point. I mean, I just want to shake my head and laugh at this. I think this will all be done today. They do say at the end of this article, by the way, and what I'm talking about is the oral arguments going in today for this court case about pulling Eric Hafner off the congressional ballot. But the the decision is expected today, but it may not be the final word. Regardless of his decision, it could be appealed to the Supreme Court on an emergency expedited basis with a final determination later this week. And that's important because the state still has to print the ballots, and then they have to be out to international voters no later than September 21st. So they've got 12 days to get all this done. And they've got to print about 3,500 ballots and test voting equipment with the draft ballot before it's all ready to go. So they've got to have it out the door no later than September the 21st. And the Democrats are just seething over this. By the way, one of the things, they had an argument that said that that Hafner was invalid, that his candidacy was invalid under state law because he'd listed the address of a mail forwarding company rather than his residence when registering as a candidate. But they dropped that argument on Friday after the Division of Elections showed that Hafner's registration form included an address, and the mail forwarding company's address was only listed on the election pamphlet. So they are literally looking for everything that they can find to try and make. But again, the key, the money shot on this whole argument is Mr. Hafner's presence on the ballot would complicate the plaintiff's efforts, the Democratic Party, to reelect Congresswoman Peltola because it will confuse voters by presenting them with a candidate, a Democrat, who plaintiffs do not support. Wait, isn't that how? Oh man, I mean, just man, are you kidding me? Again, just saying that quiet part out loud, just saying it out loud. That's what it's all. That's why they're all upset. Is that now it would complicate the matters, and they wouldn't be able to. To get their candidate on there, and that's why they're upset. And what was the other? There was another one, Must Read. We talked about it last week. What did Must Read say? Because there was another comment. Here it was. Congresswoman Peltola won the August 20th primary election with a clear majority. The next highest 3 vote getters were all Republicans. But as an apparent result of last-minute machinations at the expense of Alaska voters, again, 2 of these 3 Republican candidates dropped out. And the Division of Elections certified that they intended to place the 5th and 6th place finishers on the general election ballot. We don't know. He just would know. On information and belief, the withdrawals of the lieutenant governor and Mr. Salisbury, the 2 Republicans, were orchestrated by the Alaska Republican Party in an effort to ensure only one Republican candidate would appear on the general ballot. Like the Democratic Party wasn't in the background trying to make sure that only one major Democratic candidate appeared on the ballot. It's, again, remember what happened in 2022 with Al Gross? Do you remember how he just disappeared one day? Literally withdrew from the race. There was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of party manipulation going on there. First of all, even if what they're saying is true, there's no law that prevents a political party from acting in a politically advantageous way. This is, oh man, this thing is a train wreck. I love to watch this. I just love to watch them spin on this. Absolutely. All right. So anyway, that's going to be going on today. We'll probably have an answer today as to whether or not Hafner is going to remain on the ballot. I think this is 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but we'll see where it goes from there. Because again, if Hafner is off the ballot, that would mean either one, they only run 3 candidates. That's what they're really arguing for is they want Gerald Hikas to move up from his 8th place position to the top 4. Because if they can do that, then they'll have 2 Republicans on the ballot again. And of course, Hike has got a lot of play from some of the some of the PACs, Alaska's, I don't know, it was Alaskans for Vote Alaska Before Party, whichever the group was, where they were calling out Hikus by name. The guy didn't even make it to, the top 4 to begin with. Maybe they're hoping to get him up there so that he can draw some people away from the Begich name or whatever. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch. Let's just say that. We'll know more, hopefully late today, whether or not they're going to try and appeal that to the Alaska Supreme Court. Oh man, I just watching this stuff just absolutely come unscrewed. I love to watch this kind of stuff happen, just to see where it all lays out. Another big bump for Starlink here in the state of Alaska. Sitka, I don't know if you have been paying attention to this, but Sitka has been without internet since I guess, August 30th. They had a huge break in the line out there, the fiber line that runs out to Sitka. And that is the sole cable, the sole means that provides Sitka's phone and internet service. And so the whole place has essentially come to a grinding halt with everything that's, connected to the internet. They tell stories about basically, businesses taking cash only, or they're collecting credit card information and then trying to find a hotspot or a satellite hub and basically reconciling their card machines like once an hour or once every 2 hours to get it done. There is no connectivity. They supposedly restored cell phone and text servicing, but it's spotty at best. And of course, Starlink they actually go so far in this story to talk about how company officials at GCI have not considered the possibility that Elon Musk was responsible for the break. They said with a chuckle. Why? Because the Starlinks are flying off the shelves of everywhere that they can be found. They tell the story about one guy who was a business owner in here. Where is it? He actually, Keith Greiner hopped on a jet to Seattle. He and his business partner at a mechanical contracting business, he flew to Seattle and bought 8 Starlink units there before flying home and handing them out to all the people who were behind at their business. I mean, that's crazy. Just that you can't get one for love or money right now. Oh, except for some people are now holding out as conscientious Starlink objectors, refusing to send money to a company owned by Elon Musk because Trump or whatever. I'm going to live in the dark ages with no internet and be just because I'm not giving any money to that guy. That guy. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy that, the delicacy of our, this is what we talked about before, the cascade, right? I mean, the complex, simple, complex systems where everything is dependent on one little thing, like that one single cable. That's going to cost however much it's going to cost to repair and take however much time it's going to repair. But in the meanwhile, Starlink units are being, you should airlift a tractor trailer load of Starlink units into Sitka. You could make a mint right now. If you were some company that was a reseller of Starlink, you could just, just put a trailer on a cruise ship or on a ferry and stop in Sitka, and just you could charge what you want at that point for the equipment and make a mint on what's going on. But remember, these are the same people, the folks who the legislators, and Himshoot is quoted in here. They didn't quote Bert Stedman, but remember, these are the same people that said that the BAG grant, the broadband grant, the big broadband grant, that could only be used for hardline. that they couldn't look at satellite providers of internet for all these rural schools and communities way out there, that the billions of dollars that the federal government and millions of dollars that the federal government's going to pump into that, they can't look at satellite internet like Starlink or something else that's more affordable. No. They have to have the hard line because that's what's dependable. Except when it's not. I mean, that's what's dependable. Oh man. I mean, there's an upside to this. This story talks about how people are doing what they used to do without the internet. They're walking around. They're talking to each other. They're meeting at the public library where there's a centralized hub there where they can use a internet for just a little bit, and they're talking to their neighbors, and they're just it's great. I mean, that's great. Do we need the internet to die for us to remember how to do all that? I mean, that's kind of sad if we do. I mean, the internet's great, don't get me wrong, but I mean, at some point, shouldn't we be all remembering our neighbors and, saying hi and going and hanging out and doing all that? I mean, again, that's the silver lining to this dark, dark cloud, is that people remembered that they're actually people and that the internet is not everything. But there you go. There you go. All right. Well, that's it for today as far as news stories. And I got one final segment dead ahead. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, but if you want to call in and give us your thoughts, maybe you could give us a Starlink report. If you got, everybody seems to have Starlink these days. 319-527-3864. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We're back with more. And one final segment right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Oh, man. All right. Here's what's tragic about the Dems' darling ranked choice voting. They tried to convince us that ranked choice voting was good for voters. Now that it applies to them, they've got to sue and waste even more taxpayers' dollars. Yeah, no, I agree. Ron said he thought he would try Rumble. Well, good for you, Ron. Thanks for checking it out over there. Elena Mathis. So what's good for the goose is not good for the gander? No, right? I mean, seriously, it's like, whoa, wait a second. The shoe's on the other foot now. What do I do? Oh, man. Just don't try installing Starlink in secret on a Navy ship. Oh, man. Oh, it's, that was the whole thing. Yes, but the hard lines are so much better and cheaper, right, than the satellite. I mean, remember, these are the same people that said, no, we couldn't possibly look at like satellite because, the hard, that's what we need. We just need that. Oh, man. Tentatively waiting on Nick. I'm sorry. I should have changed that early on in the show, Rochelle. Nick is not going to be on today. He'll be on next week. It was my bad. For some reason, I had him scheduled for last Monday, which was Labor Day. We were off the air on Labor Day. And but for some reason, I was thinking it was today. So my bad. It's she says she's not sold on the man. Look at his APOC from 2016. Lots of Union family donations and likely untracked cash donations from himself. Well, you can check him out next Monday, Rochelle. I mean, I think your suspicion is unfounded, but that's just my personal opinion. You'll have to make that decision for yourself. There you go. Lindsay Kelly asked if she was voting for Peltola, and she says, no, probably not. I'm just not drinking the Kool-Aid like others. I don't think there's really any Kool-Aid in there, but Rochelle, again, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. I think a lot of people get bent up on the whole Begich name. But if you again, look at who he is and what he talks about and, the policies and everything else, I think you should try and get past the prejudice of the Begich name. Because remember, I mean, one of the most conservative members of Congress right now is got Kennedy as his name, right? Senator Kennedy. Layla says, I have remote coworkers with Starlink. We have meetings on Teams. They're the ones who don't drop out. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hearing, is that it's stability-wise, it's so much better. Brian says, and the hard lines are better for GCI, and that is what is important. Sure. I mean, how much a mile does it cost to lay down the hard cable? How much a mile? I know that they were talking about when they got to some of these places that the final mile of termination was something like $50,000 for that final mile of termination to wherever they were going. I mean, $50,000. I mean, that's 200 Starlink units, right? No, 100 Starlink units, because they're $500 a piece. Right. Is that right? I mean, I haven't had caffeine yet this morning. 50,000. If there were 1,000, it'd be 50. So it's 100. Yeah, it's 100. It's 100 units. 100 Starlink units for that last mile of termination alone. And it's only $90 a month versus what I'm seeing these cable companies out in the bush. I don't know how, somebody must have signed me up for that. Happens occasionally. Like all of a sudden I'll start getting emails from someplace. And I'm like, I never signed up to get emails from these people. So listeners must have signed me. Anyway, I ended up getting an offer from some telecom up on the North Slope that said, hey, we've got our greatest deals right now on internet. And man, their greatest deal on internet that would have matched Starlink at like 100 megs down was like $300 plus a month, like $370 a month. A Starlink was $90 a month. I mean, come on, what? I mean, $90 a month for Starlink. So yeah, it's crazy what you could do with that. All right. Well, I got nothing, guys. What do you want to talk about? This final segment. I don't know. Oh, and it's on sale. That's right. I forgot. It's still on sale. $2.99. $2.99. Is it on sale through the end of the month? Now's the time to figure it out. We should go do that. We should go check it out. $2.99. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. All right, we're continuing now. One final segment for today. I was like, I don't know. Everybody in the chat room is talking about Starlink now. Everybody. And by the way, I feel like we should get Starlink to sponsor the show. Starlink is on sale right now till October 5th. Thank you, Brian. Till October 5th. Chris reminds us that Starlink is on sale for $2.99. $2.99 for the hardware. And it's $90 a month for 100 megs down. And then I was looking at what was I looking at over the weekend? I was perusing the Homer Facebook group, which I normally don't do, but my wife said something about there was something on there. So I went and looked at it, and I was just cruising through the group, and somebody had a question about Starlink or internet service, and Starlink came up, and they're like, but is it any good? And people started posting their, you get an app with the Starlink, right, that connects to your phone. And so you can check the speed, like how much data you're getting, and all that kind of stuff. And people were like 140 megs, 130 megs, they were getting extremely good speeds on that kind of stuff. There was a lot of them on there, and they were all saying Starlink as far as internet options down there. And that's great. I mean, I just think that is fantastic. I love having another option. And quite honestly, I kind of like giving Elon Musk a little money. I mean, because I admire the guy. Don't always agree with him, but I admire the guy. And I love it that he has provided an option for people who have no other option. I was asking folks, if they had Starlink, what their experience was with him. Layla says in the chat room, she says, I have remote coworkers with Starlink. We have meetings on Microsoft Teams, which is like a Zoom type software, right? She said the folks with Starlinks are the only ones who don't drop out. And that's true. That is true. I mean, they were I've seen many people talk about that. And of course, when they broke the cable up on the North Slope, they actually had that story where they had pictures. I don't know if you saw the story in the ADN. They snapped a picture of a row of houses in, I don't know if it was in Nuktavik. I can't remember where it was at, but they had a row of houses, like 10 of them, and all you were looking at was the peaks of the roofs, and you could see the peaks of the roofs, and you could just see Starlink dish, just down the row. It was just like every one of them had gotten a Starlink since then. And you wonder, how are the telcos going to survive up there? I mean, if you don't even need a cell phone for cell phone coverage, you can use voice over IP stuff. You can make a call on, Discord, or you can make a call on Facebook or FaceTime with your iPhone or whatever. I mean, if you could just connect to the internet, do you even need a regular telephone kind of thing out there? If it's all internet, that was the big thing that surprised me on that Sitka story, was that everything was connected to that fiber line, and they lost all their phones, not just their internet. They lost their phones, their telephone system. And so if that's the case, why wouldn't you just run everything through your telephone? VoIP, voice over IP stuff. It's crazy. Brian says, I have a team in Umiat right now. He works as a what do they call it? Project manager, right? And he says, I have a team in Umiat right now. Starlink is mind blowing. From the box to connection in 10 minutes. Woof, man. Woof. I love it. I love it. I think that is absolutely fantastic. I love to see market disruption in that way. And that's really what's, again, I think that's what really makes me admire Elon Musk as much as I do, is that there's a guy that's not afraid of trying to disrupt the market. Now, on the downside, he's also not afraid to take government money to do certain things and yada, yada, yada. And I find that a little irritating. But a market disruptor in so many ways. I mean, this is a guy that has literally privatized space flight. Reusing, they had their, what was it? It was the 27th or 28th re-entry of one of the Raptor boosters that crashed, and people are like, oh, look, it finally didn't make it. It crashed and exploded or whatever on the pad when it was trying to land. And people are like, oh, look, he did. It went up 27 times and came back before it finally melted down. I mean, again, as a private company, it wasn't NASA. It wasn't some big defense contractor who was building. I mean, look at the astronauts who are stranded in orbit right now, right? They're up there in orbit and they can't come back down. They were supposed to be like a 4 or 5 day trip. They're going to be up there for 9 months. And one of the Dragon capsules is going to have to go get them. The SpaceX is going to have to go get them because the military contractor who built the what do they call that? Starline? No, not Starliner. Whatever it is, the spacecraft that was built by the military contractor, didn't make it. It's crazy, you know. All right. We got one final call here, I think we have time for. Let's go over to the phones right now and see who's calling up from Bethel here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good morning. Willie out here in Quinnipiac.
Hello, Willie. What's on your mind, my friend?
You hit my favorite subject, Starlink. I love it. We got stories going out here right now. We had the barge lines out here laying the GCI cable out there, and the boys were in town here for like 2 weeks. They had to dig it in to get it into the beach and then put a box there and everything else. And the 2 big barges that are hired to lay this line all the way up and down the coast and eventually into Bethel and points beyond, they call it dinosaur cable. And they all have Starlinks on their barges out there. Everybody is dependent on Starlink on the barges that they're running. So the other thing that I wanted to kind of get you steered straight on, the $299, as close as I can figure it, is for the DC components for Starlink, which you piggyback to your house Starlink. You buy another set, you can put it on your snowmobile, you can put it on your boat, you can put it on your RV trailer, or you can take it over and plug it onto your neighbor's, but it runs off of DC, and it's an add-on for $30 a month. So you can have 2 complete Starlink setups as long as you run one off of DC, which just buy an inverter from your wall to DC and you're in there. So for $120, you can have 2 Starlink setups and one you can travel anywhere you want to go with. And I have friends that from Bethel that keep RVs and rigs in Anchorage, but they've got them on those. The guys got them on their little boats. They go to fish camps and they're over hunting right now. We're seeing pictures instantly of dead moose, everything else. So that's kind of where we're at, and that's what I had.
All right, Willie. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. They've got this new add-on stuff that's pretty amazing, and they're doing they're being pretty aggressive about it as well out there in marketing now, which I think it's doing it for themselves, like with Sitka and everywhere else. I think it's doing it for themselves. Thank you, Willie, for calling in. All right, folks. Well, it's been Monday. I hope you have a better day. Tomorrow it'll be Chris Story, Brad Keithley, and we'll see how it goes from there. Thanks for coming in and joining us, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, my friend. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Willie was clear as a bell, which is, again, ironic in that thing, doesn't it? That's just kind of ironic. All right, well, we're going to go. We appreciate you being part of it today. News article, I just said, Brittany, I just saw her comment. News article says that Elon is on track to be the world's first trillionaire by 2027. Well, maybe. Oh, good money if you can make it. We'll see you guys. Have a great day.
fine.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.